Hola everyone, welcome to Flexibility Script. This video is going to be going into some things that can help bring some relief of dealing with IT band issues or lateral thigh issues that may be referring to the knee and hip. So the IT band is a thick band of tissue that runs along this whole outer thigh. It's short for iliotibial band, meaning it comes from the ilium, which is the pelvis, and inserts on the tibia, which is one of the shin bones down here. It comes from one of the muscles on the outside of the hip, the TFL, and the glutes as well, and then runs along the length. Usually when we're dealing with IT band issues, it's really great to address the source of where it's coming from, where its origin is on the hip. So there's some massages and stretches, and that can really help. When you work here, it'll help alleviate the symptoms you have along the lateral thigh or right around the outside of the knee, along with if you do things like foam rolling or self-massage techniques, addressing the lateral quad and the lateral hamstring, and that will help the IT band symptoms that you may be experiencing, as opposed to putting some direct pressure onto the areas. When dealing with IT band issues, most of the time you'll experience some pain on the outside of the knee or somewhere in this vicinity here, or to be honest, anywhere along the outside. But most of the experiences are usually if you're running or biking or something where it's a lot of repetition consistently. Those areas can get a little bit on the overuse side, and you may start experiencing some discomfort. So having techniques in your bag to help address it when they're coming on, or just to do it as a part of your training to try to prevent things from happening, is always really beneficial. What I'll be showing you today is a technique that can be done with the Floss Compression Band or a Voodoo Floss Band. Rock Tape has one called the Rock Floss Band, but it's just a band that's meant to help compress the tissue, bones, joints, musculature, and while it's under compression, you introduce some movement, which is that flossing. Flossing is just short for movement. So while it's in compression, we're introducing some movement and getting some areas of restriction that may not be moving well and sliding and gliding well to be freed up. When we compress that area, we usually are starting to have an effect on the blood flow to the area, and we're getting it to move, and blood flow is being restricted. And then when we remove the band stays on for around 2 minutes-ish. When we remove the band, we get this rush of blood flow to the area, and areas that may have gone cold due to injury or may not be receiving a lot of blood flow, all of a sudden have this nice blood flow and this nice freedom of movement is restored to the area. So when I'm dealing with IT band issues, I usually address that, like I mentioned, the lateral thigh, lateral hamstring, the hip, and I love integrating the Floss Compression Band directly to the lateral thigh because it helps free up that tissue, helping it slide and glide, and also helps with tendinitis issues as well. If there's inflammation in the area, it can help speed up the recovery process. So there's a lot of techniques that can be done when you do the Floss Compression Band for the IT band. So what I'll be doing is I'll compress it, and then it's as simple as bending and straightening the knee, or we can add some various stretches that address opening up the tissue on the lateral thigh. So to get started, when I want to do the tissue on the outside of my leg, I can pop my leg up somewhere comfortable where I feel good and balanced to stand on, and I'm going to be addressing this lateral area right here. The technique with the band is that of pin, stretch, and wrap. So I'll pin the band, I'll stretch the band, and then I'll wrap it. And so what that looks like be here, and so I really want to address this lateral thigh here. So that's where the compression is going to go, as opposed to going all over the quad, all over the thigh, I should say. I just want to address this lateral thigh. If I wanted to address my hamstring, then I'll put the compression down here. So You'll see as I get going that I'm gonna pin the band with my thumb here. I'm gonna stretch, and then I'm gonna wrap right over that lateral thigh, and then I'm gonna pass the band over. Now usually the very first one's a little tricky to get the wrap going, but then once I have it, again, I'm gonna think pin with my thumb here. I'll stretch the band 50 to 70%, and then I'll wrap it around that lateral thigh, and then this part over here that kind of winds over doesn't have any stretch to it. Again, pin, pin, stretch, wrap, pass it through, pin, stretch, wrap, pass it through. I'm going to come up a little bit closer, so I'm going to see if I can get up to the camera. So again, I'm going to use my thumb, I'm going to pin, and then I'm going to stretch, and then I'm going to wrap, and then wrap around, pin, stretch, wrap, and then when I see that there's not much band left, I'm just going to take that band and I'm just going to find somewhere to be able to tuck it under one of the loops in order to secure it. Now when it's wrapped up, all I can do is as simple as adding some leg movement. Sometimes to be honest, I will wrap it up and I will walk around the house while I'm doing laundry or cleaning up, because all that's needed is to be able to get some movement as simple as knee flexion and extension, and get it moving. I could sit and I could be seated and I could be going into like straightening and bending. Sometimes I'll kind of cross the leg laterally and I'll go into bending and straightening the leg. There's also this standing lateral thigh stretch where you stand. I'm going to move this back just a little bit. I hope to capture this, where I'll stand, and this is the leg that's wrapped. So I'll stand, cross the other leg over, the one that's not wrapped, just slightly in front, and then from there it kind of automatically, when I do that, band, the leg that's wrapped kind of comes across my midline, and I just gently fold forward and reach for the toe, and that usually gets right into getting a nice stretch running along the lateral thigh. I'm going to move this down just a little bit to capture it. So again, band is wrapped, and then I'm going to place my weight on that leg. This other leg's going to come over, and automatically I'm in this little leg crossing the midline position. I'm going to fold forward and reach for that toe and come up. And when I do that, I will feel a stretch run along the lateral thigh. So while the band is compressing that tissue, integrating some movement that also integrates some stretching to the area. This last little one, I'm going to turn right here. I'll be laying on the table, and I can be on my back. I'm going to take a band, it's a rubber banded band. I can loop it around my foot, and when I loop it around, if I wrap the band around the inside, it helps keep my leg internally rotated. If I take that band and I wrap it around the outside of my leg, it helps keep my leg externally rotated, and from here I can gently pull. So I'm going to pull that, let the band help me externally rotate the leg, and then gently come over. And as I come in and out of this stretch, I'm coming in and out of a lateral thigh stretch. I can also add a little bit more movement by bend, straighten, and then pull. And then come out of it, bend, straighten, pull over. And I'll keep adding that movement. So while I have that compression band, that Floss Compression Band on, I'm integrating movement that helps open up the tissues running along the outside of my leg and hip to help do a little bit of a more bang for my buck to help address the tissues of the lateral thigh. Once you're about 2 minutes in, it usually starts feeling like it's getting a little harder and harder to move your leg. Now, surprisingly, usually it's about 2 minutes that you leave the band on. Sometimes when I do my thigh, since my leg musculature is sometimes a little bit more than the musculature around my forearm, for example, I can usually tolerate leaving it on for a longer period of time before I start feeling like, ooh, getting a little tingles, or ooh, it's getting really hard to move my leg. And so I will remove the band, respect those feelings, remove the band, and you get this rush of blood flow to the area. And along with it being opened up from the movement and stretches that you integrated, that area, if you were to feel around, it should be sliding and gliding, and you can maybe pinch it with more ease. And it's just that tissue has been freed up, and some movement has been restored to the area and the fascia, and it's great. So give it a shot, and I hope this helps. Bye.